Dominica seeks hurricane recovery aid from the World Bank. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, September 26th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt says he's negotiating with the World Bank for $100 million in loans and grants to help in the island's recovery following the passage of Hurricane Maria last week. At a press conference on Tuesday, he said the Washington-based financial institution has already agreed to $64 million in loans and grants, but he wants another $36 million.
I'm negotiating for him to take it to $100 million. They've asked me to come to Washington to further negotiate this package. I told them I will come if they can take it to $100 million. So we're trying to push them to take it to $100 million with a combination of grants and loans. I also want to say to the country, a number of governments are making commitments. As the days go by, we'll update you on the financial commitments that governments and institutions are making.
Skerritt said the island had also received $19 million from the CCRIF SPC, formerly the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility. He also reported that health services are also getting back on track. In fact, Skerritt says tremendous strides have been made with doctors from France and as far as Palestine helping out.
The French have been particularly helpful. The French have had since Wednesday morning, Tuesday morning they came in first. And from Wednesday morning, a number of health experts at the hospital. We have brought the hospital back on its feet, covered the roofs, put in some medical equipment. As a matter of fact, we airlifted some patients to Martinique at midnight last night. Patients had to be evacuated. One gentleman who needed to be transfused no later than midday today. And we were able to get him out at midnight. There's one baby who was born prematurely, and that baby was also airlifted to Martinique and receiving medical care. So we're making progress. We can treat with a number of issues at the hospital now. With electricity, hopefully by today, we can certainly improve on the services. The French have brought in some medical equipment. We are able to dialyze patients. We're utilizing solar-powered dialysis machines. And we should set up the theater today. It's been set up, but with electricity coming, there will not be the tripping of the equipment because the equipment which we have gotten are very sensitive, and therefore we need a consistent supply of a particular voltage of electricity. And once that is addressed, then we're able to operate. We have a surgery expert from the French government on island who's been helping with putting the hospital back into shape. So for the last several days, we made a tremendous progress in improving the services.
Meantime, Skerritt sought to reassure citizens that food supplies were being received and would be distributed throughout the island, as he urged people with transportation to assist in getting the supplies into needy communities. Meantime, Dominica's President Charles Savarin has warned that looters and other people engaged in criminal behavior in the aftermath of the hurricane are making life more difficult for the population. He says lawlessness can only cause more harm and distress to those who have survived and those trying to help the country recover from the ravages of the Category 5 hurricane that has been blamed for the loss of at least 27 lives and millions of dollars in damages. In an address on local radio on Tuesday, Savarin pointed out that people who broke into and stole material from the Dominica Water and Sewerage Company Limited had hampered efforts to restore water in a section of the island on Sunday. as they'd taken generators, pumps, tools, power saws, chainsaws, and water tanks.
Those responsible were not seeking food to feed themselves and their families, but were engaged in criminal activities of the worst kind. There are similar activities elsewhere, where business places, containers, and warehouses, which were not damaged by Hurricane Maria, were broken into and looted. I call on all community leaders, the church or churches, service clubs, NGOs, parliamentary representatives and other members of parliament, and leaders of trade unions to join me in condemning this criminal behavior.
The Bahamas government has announced plans to accommodate students from Dominica displaced by Hurricane Maria. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis has committed to relaxing the country's immigration policy to allow students and other Dominicans with families in the Bahamas to come to the country. He says it's essential for the Bahamas to do all it can to assist in Dominica's rebuilding efforts.
The children would have been displaced. And of course, you know, the kids, that's the future to Dominica and the future to the world. And therefore, we would open our borders and accommodate those kids within our school system. And I make a plea to the Bahamian populace that those who can afford them in going into the private schools, please assist with the school fees there so that not all may be accommodated in the public system.
But the Bahamas Union of Teachers has some questions about the move to bring the Dominicans into the Bahamian schools. President Belinda Wilson says while she's not opposed to the move, government must first articulate the details of how it plans to accommodate the students. She says it's the Bahamas' Christian duty to help its brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, but the country must still be practical. Wilson says the Bahamas school system is already overcrowded, understaffed, and is facing a shortage of furniture, and she wants to know how many students the Bahamas intends to accept, for how long, and who would be funding this initiative. Minnis had said it was too early to say how many students would come to the Bahamas. Meantime, there has been mixed reaction from Bahamians about the government's offer to Dominica.
You know, we don't have the space for them. You know, we don't have space for the Bahamian children. You know,
I think we should give a helping hand. As Bahamians, I think we should do that still, because it could happen to us too. Yeah. So that's for my bottom of my heart. So let Christian principles and all us Bahamians, let's do something to any of our Caribbean brothers and sisters.
Our own differences before we can help people. We sure the teachers, we sure the classrooms, we sure the chairs, desks.
As with anything, you got concerns, and but I think in a situation like this, we have to weigh out the concerns, and hopefully we can accommodate them if only on a humanitarian basis, and hopefully it works for the good of all of us.
Grenada's Prime Minister and CARICOM Chairman Dr. Keith Mitchell has praised the swift response from neighboring countries to the plight of storm-battered islands this hurricane season. He says it's further evidence of the need for regional integration.
Therefore, I'm heartened by the fact that the response from the region within the limited means available to us has been swift and decisive. We don't have a choice. Because the world in 2004 is a bit different than this one today. The languages from the north is certainly different. And Grenada found it in 2004. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. I want to pause here for a moment to convey my heartfelt appreciation to all the regional agencies and those international partners. Some of you, I'm sure, are in the audience today. The private sector in our society, the civil society groups, our diaspora brothers and sisters, and the many individuals who volunteer and still are volunteering their time and tangible support to the emergency relief and recovery efforts for their extremely valuable contributions.
Meantime, 7 high-risk prisoners from the British Virgin Islands on Monday arrived in St. Lucia to continue serving their sentences at the Bordelais Correctional Facility under an agreement reached between the two countries following the passage of Hurricane Irma earlier this month. And 2 additional aircraft landed on Tuesday to offload more high-risk inmates from the BVI and the Turks and Caicos Islands. We get more in this HTS News Force report.
A Royal Air Force Airbus military transport aircraft touched down at the Uranora International Airport at around 9:30 a.m. Monday. On board, 7 prisoners from the hurricane-ravaged British Virgin Islands, bound for the Bordelais Correctional Facility. Heavily armed personnel from St. Lucia's principal security agencies with assault rifles in hand stood guard on the tarmac as a convoy of vehicles approached the ramp of the heavy-lift turboprop transport plane. The transfer of the prisoners was facilitated through a joint operation involving the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority, the Bordelais Correctional Facility, and the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Officials at the BCF have sought to allay public fears about safety and the capacity of the penal complex to house the prisoners from the BVI. Programs Manager Virginia Lesmo Joseph explains that there are special arrangements in place to secure the foreign inmates.
Presently, we are undergoing an operation where we just received a number of inmates from the British Virgin Islands.
About how many prisoners? How many?
7. They are all high-risk inmates. As a result, they will be separated from the general population.
BCF officials continue to stress that the facility can accommodate the prisoners.
Our capacity is supposed to be 500, but presently we are at our lowest.
So the general public doesn't have to worry that those prisoners will be because they had some concerns that those prisoners would be mingling with the general population.
No, they will not be mingling with the general population. They are separated, and the general population has nothing to do with them.
The governor of the British Virgin Islands reportedly signed the Emergency Powers for the Transfer of the Prisoners Regulations 2017 and issued warrants for the transfer of the inmates to St. Lucia on the weekend.
Coming up in Caribbean Newsline, advice and warnings for the region on the heels of devastation from Hurricane Maria. We will tell you who's giving them and what they're saying after the break.
Come, sail with us through our ocean blues, where there's a blessed land that's waiting for you. Shh, look, listen, feel. Realize your dream escape that's magically surreal. The best kept secret, a place you'll never forget, where adventure beckons with every gentle footstep. From lush mountain green to warm volcanic sand, submerged in splendor, our 32 enchanting islands. A kaleidoscope of experiences. No need to look anymore. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Caribbean you're looking for.
The new IMSA contender that Acura will field along with Team Penske next year. It's called the ARX-05. The cover pulled off that race car just a few moments ago. The new IMSA Challenger's debut, a smash. The cover being pulled back on the Orica chassis Acura ARX-05 at the Quail, a motorsports gathering during Monterey Car Week in August. HPD President Art St. Cyr excited about the new car's prospects.
Despite many witnesses and Israeli forces knowing full well who the attackers were, they made no arrests in the terrorist attack. Instead, they issued a gag order, making it illegal for any media to report on the incident. The press embargo lasted months, but the attack became a major public scandal, and the Israeli state was pressured to file charges after more than 5 months. Of the 17 they initially arrested in connection with the attack, only 2 were charged by the Israeli government.
Welcome back. CARICOM Chairman Dr. Keith Mitchell is calling on the region to rethink the whole process of dealing with the aftermath of a natural disaster. Mitchell, along with CARICOM Secretary General Erwin LaRocque and the President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Warren Smith, toured several areas devastated by Hurricane Maria in Dominica. Mitchell questioned what happens after a natural disaster in the region, and he also questioned how they can integrate the efforts of the private sector, governments, and all other institutions.
I still believe what we we are literally doing guesswork with not sufficient integration in the process. I believe this whole thing tells us there must be deeper planning. And Secretary General, it seems to me that one of the major issues of the CARICOM heads is how do we prepare appropriately? It's not if, right? It's not if, it's when. So the question is, a lot of the things maybe Dominica is going through today probably should not have to go through it. There should almost be a system that takes off automatically. So I'm convinced that we have to do more than we have done.
The Grenadian Prime Minister also said that on his visits to the other Caribbean countries that have been impacted by hurricanes so far this year, he found that in the midst of all the destruction, in an area where all the buildings were on the ground, there were 1 or 2 buildings that stood as though a hurricane had never passed.
What does that tell us? In fact, I think it was Turks and Caicos told us about an area where, because of a previous hurricane, all the houses were built back at a certain standard. The hurricane passed there again. All the buildings that were not built back after that hurricane were flattened, and the ones that were built back stood up. That tells us the whole question of building code. Regional building code, not just a Grenada one, a Barbados one, a regional, because colleagues, as I said, is not if, it is when.
And a senior lecturer at the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies, Dr. Richard Clark, says one of the biggest lessons from Hurricane Maria is that it's important for the Caribbean to seriously consider the impact of global warming. Clark, who is in Dominica as part of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency Rapid Response Team, tells CMC News there is need to investigate the impact of global warming on designing for wind speeds in the Caribbean.
The biggest lesson that we've learned is that it is important for us to seriously consider the impact of global warming on the level of the hurricane, the level of the wind speed that we need to be designing for. If we had to go with only historical records, meaning prior to the increase in the effect of global warming, then we will be out. So even if we design to the current wind speeds, when the effect of global warming kicks in, we would have under-designed the structure. So we seriously need to investigate the impact of global warming on the current design wind speeds for the Caribbean.
Clark said while that's among the recommendations he will be submitting to the authorities, these are approaches well known to engineers worldwide.
The issue would be to get the different engineering organizations to form groups that would try and impact or impress upon government the need for modernizing or for treating seriously the effect of global warming and other natural phenomena on the design process to mitigate the effects of these hazards.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, the West Indies captain still hopeful of the Caribbean side taking a share in the ODI series against England. Stay with us.
Come, sail with us through our ocean blues, where there's a blessed land that's waiting for you. Look, listen, feel, realize your dream escape that's magically surreal. The best kept secret, a place you'll never forget, where adventure beckons with every gentle footstep. From lush mountain green to warm volcanic sand, submerged in splendor, our 32 enchanting islands. A kaleidoscope of experiences. No need to look anymore. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Caribbean you're looking for.
Obviously, the impact that you're having in restoring and reaffirming home ownership in the middle class could leave many people speechless. Talk about the importance of the middle class and the home ownership and why this is so critical to the economy of this country.
It's basically, if you really think about it, home ownership is the largest purchase the average middle American will make.
Paradise Ocean Club is a little bit of paradise for everybody. When you plan your visit, you'll be able to experience waterfront dining, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a tiki bar, and live local entertainment. Personally, I can't wait to snag one of those cabanas they have available to rent.
We're going to head right on into Game 2 of our women's finals. Aurora and Marina looking to take this one to push it to Game 3. Aurora with a nice serve over to Camila.
Continuing with sports now, Captain Jason Holder believes West Indies can still take a share of the 5-match one-day international series against England despite losing 2 of the first 3 games. Speaking following the Caribbean side's 124-run defeat at Bristol on Sunday, Holder said the Windies needed to execute better in the remaining games in order to take something away. West Indies were completely outplayed in the 3rd ODI. Opting to bowl first, they allowed England to pile up 369 for 9 off their 50 overs, with Moeen Ali scoring England's second fastest ever ODI 100 with 102 off 57 balls. Test captain Joe Root struck 84 from 79 balls, while all-rounder Ben Stokes chipped in with 73 off 63 deliveries. Despite the loss, Holder said the Windies take pride in the fact they were able to get wickets with the new ball. West Indies clashed with England on Wednesday in the 4th ODI before closing out the series 2 days later. They opened the series last Tuesday with a 7-wicket defeat at Old Trafford in Manchester, with the second game in Nottingham rained out after just 14 deliveries last Thursday. But regional cricket commentator Fazir Mohammed isn't as hopeful as the Windies captain. He says the West Indies is incapable of winning the remaining ODIs because of the inconsistencies plaguing the regional side. Speaking with TV6 in Trinidad and Tobago, he said the team needs to get its act together going into the qualifiers for the Cricket World Cup.
Regional cricket analyst Fazir Mohammed doesn't expect things to improve for the West Indies. With 2 more matches remaining, Mohammed believes the Caribbean side is going to be defeated.
The expectations won't be very high for the West Indies team going into those final 2 one-dayers, not because they have no potential to upset England, but they just don't seem to be capable of putting every facet of their game together consistently well enough. When they bat well enough, they bowl badly or they field poorly. So as a result of that, the West Indies, unless the weather intervenes, are facing a 4-0 beating in this one-day series.
What is of utmost importance for the Windies at this stage is getting to the 2019 World Cup, which means the men in maroon have to get it right during next year's qualifiers against the fledglings. Like many in the West Indies, Mohammed says the regional side cannot take the qualifiers lightly.
The West Indies certainly can't take anything for granted in those qualifiers, especially because, as we've seen not too long ago, in June, the West Indies were beaten, were routed by the leg spinner from Afghanistan and lost that match. The series was squared 1-1 with the final match ruined by rain. And just that result alone will be a clear indicator as to what the West Indies potentially face early next year.
As part of their preparations for the qualifiers, Mohammed feels it's necessary to give some of the other players currently in England an opportunity to play in the remaining 2 ODIs.
Someone like a Sunil Ambris, who is in the squad and has been in the squad in the Caribbean without yet being given a chance, he needs an opportunity. Chadwick Walton needs an opportunity.
And leading England all-rounder Ben Stokes has been ruled out of Wednesday's 4th ODI after being arrested by police on suspicion of assault following an incident in a bar in Bristol on Sunday. A statement from the England and Wales Cricket Board on Tuesday said opener Alex Hales would also be unavailable for the match at the Oval after returning to Bristol to assist police with investigations into the same incident. Both players were together at the Embargo Club following England's 124-run victory over West Indies in the 3rd one-day international. The incident reportedly left one man requiring medical treatment for facial injuries. Stokes has been a key member of the England side in the ongoing 5-match ODI series against West Indies. Switching sports now, American track star Justin Gatlin plans to make the Grenada Invitational a part of his early season schedule next year. The reigning world champion was forced out of this year's showpiece with injury, but said his focus was already on making up for that disappointment. The 35-year-old had been expected to be part of a star-studded lineup for the inaugural Grenada Invitational last April, but failed to participate because of injury. If he does take part next year, he will do so with the added status of world champion after toppling legendary Usain Bolt last month in London to win the 100-meter title. The Grenada Invitational was headlined by the likes of former world and Olympic champion American LaShawn Merritt, another former 400-meter world champion Kirani James of Grenada, and Jamaican Veronica Campbell-Brown, a former world and Olympic 200-meter title holder. Over to football, Bermudian midfielder Reggie Lamb netted his 4th goal of the season as a rampant Carlisle United won 5-0 in an English League 2 match on Saturday. Livewire Lamb also won a penalty and hit the post as 15th placed Carlisle won for the first time in 6 games. Defender Danny Granger put the visitors ahead in the 13th minute with a left-footed strike into the far corner. Carlisle doubled their lead in the 48th minute after former Carlisle player Michael Rains tripped Lamb as he burst into the box. And Granger added to his earlier strike by slotting home the penalty as he sent goalkeeper Ben Garrett the wrong way. Carlisle added a third in the 72nd minute when Rains diverted an in-swinging Granger corner into his own net. Lamb added to Crew's misery 3 minutes later when he took a pass from Jamie Devitt and slid the ball under Garrett before striking the uprights in the closing minutes. Substitute Hallam Hope added a 5th with the last kick of the game after racing clear. And finally, in horse racing, Rocco Bowen won just once in 11 rides on Sunday's season-ending program, but it was of academic interest as the Barbadian jockey wrapped up his 2nd successive title at Emerald Downs. The 28-year-old scored in race 8 with favourite Better Be Gone to bring his final tally for the 2017 campaign to 126 wins, an increase of 16 wins over last year's performance. Bowen also claimed 92 seconds and 79 thirds from 506 starts overall and ended with US $1.22 million in winnings. Matt Dinaham has the call.
Turns for home with a 3-length cushion. Now make it a 4-length lead for Better Be Gone. The Press chasing gamely in 2nd. And then a big break back to Thorn Legacy, who's up into 3rd. They're coming to the 16th pole. Better Be Gone starting to get tired. The Press is coming after him. Better Be Gone keeps going with 70 yards left. And Better Be Gone gets the gate to wire score. The Press with a good effort 2nd. Then Thorn Legacy 3rd. And Guarding the Money finished 4th.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Grow your business or promote your event through the services offered by the Caribbean Media Corporation and CaribVision. Our distribution provides a platform on cable, terrestrial television, and websites. We cover carnivals and events from across the region. We can bring your event live and alive to the world. For music makers, program producers, businesses, we can expand your reach to in excess of 2 million households daily. Our other services include news updates to enhance your media products, studio space for program and development. We can facilitate the launch of new products and services and training. Contact us and we will help you unleash your creative ability, develop products and services, and provide the medium to watch them grow. Contact Loretta Skeet at cmccaribbean.com or call her 1-246-467-1044 or 1-246-253-3889. Call and book your carnival or event today.
Again, the major developments of this day: Dominica seeks $100 million in hurricane recovery aid from the World Bank. And in sport, West Indies captain Jason Holder still has high hopes for the regional side in the 5-match ODI series against England despite the loss of 2 of the first 3 matches. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports round the clock, log on to CaribbeanNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and good night.